You know, in this hobby, the vast majority of nerds are very antisocial people that don't just have a built-in group, like a group of friends or family members to game with, right? And they're antisocial. Now, I've learned over the years that to game with people you don't know, well, to get together to hang out with your friends, well, that's not what you're doing. There are social aspects that are happening with the home group that are not happening with over 90% of people that you're gaming with. And so the social aspect of just hanging out with your friends doesn't exist. And how you have fun when it comes to public gaming is actually to care about the game. Elements that the home group might not care too much about, you will, because you don't really know these people all the time that you're gaming with. And the fun that you're going to have is through what you're doing. And you got to have people that are on board with you. You know, your friends and family are already going to sort of be soft, reasonable. You know who they are. When you're meeting up with strangers, well, you don't want to get into too many horror stories. Right? So, the first thing I'll do as a game master is have some rules. Have some rules to avoid certain things. I'm looking to see if you're going to be lazy. Right? Like getting a character done in a certain amount of time. I want to see if you're going to be lazy. I put a lot of work in, and I need someone who can handle the basic idea of making a character that takes no time. And that effort's going to tell me I can trust you for the work you're going to do going forward. What else am I doing during that process? Well, I'm pushing some authority, right? Well, as a game master, I manage the table. And I don't know all of you, and I need to make sure people are cool. That you're going to get along with each other. That you're not going to just in person mistreat each other. You know, even outside of the game at the table. I don't need that type of conflict. And I need to know that when I say something, you know, with the friends, I can just say what I need to say and I know how that's going to work out. With strangers, I don't. So a little testing up front to put down that authority. You got to get the character done by this time or do this. When they say okay and they do it, first off, I see that they're not lazy. Also, players are telling me they can handle basic authority from the game master. So that tells me I can comfortably manage the table with those players. I can put my foot down, and if they're doing something that's like ill behavior, they'll adjust. Or at least there's a sign of it. So, first off, it's going to tell me you're not going to be lazy, and you're going to adjust. But the effort's going to tell me something else. When we get together as strangers, really the fun we're going to have is in the activity. The flow of the game, playing the game and having a good time. I need all that to function right? I need things to go pretty smooth on that end. You being able to handle authority, you not being lazy, guarantees that first off socially you'll act right, and you'll also focus on playing the game when I make that a necessity. Here, focus here, we're playing the game. Okay. I need that. All these tests up front for me are very important. And when you don't test people that are strangers up front, you can run into the horror stories of people that misbehave, don't listen, and whatnot. And when they show you a red flag, they're not getting the character done in time. Or they're offended by the slightest bit of authority that you're putting down. Authority that should not offend them, given that you are the game master and they need to listen to this kind of stuff anyway. If they seem offended by that, it's a red flag to me right away. I might say to the person, this is a red flag. Either you stop, either you show me better behavior, or I'll just avoid bringing you into the game now. Sometimes I won't say much. I'll give people an opportunity, multiple opportunities. And if they keep flaking out on me, not getting a character done in time, not doing what I asked, well, I'll say goodbye to them. And here's another thing as a game master, to test your authority. When you say something has to be what it is by a certain time. When you make up an initial rule to how somebody's going to enter your game, you need to stick to it. Like if I tell players that when I start a new campaign, I will not accept characters on game day. They need to have the character completed at the very least, the day before. Well, if they come to me the day of that session, that opening session, no, you can't enter the game. You'll have to start in with your character next week. Now, it might seem like, oh, come on, man. Well, first off, there is some things going on. I want to be able to focus on thinking about the game, not about trying to adjust your character into the game. On top of that, I need your respect and I need you to take me serious. And I can't give you a sign right away that if I make up a rule, I might break it so you don't have to listen to it. I might say something, but who knows if I'm going to hold up to it. I need at that point, more than at any other point, to make sure if I say, no, that ain't happening, when you come that day with the character, I got to say, no, man, you'll have to join next week. Just how it is. Now, a lot of that might seem really harsh up front, I guess, to some people. Some people will get bothered by this type of push. But you're strangers to me, and this is going to be over 90% of people in the hobby. Was this way in the 80s when I came in, it continues to be this way now. Right? The majority of gaming is always not in the home with a built-in group of friends or family. And I can get bothered by that sometimes when I hear people that had that situation, that were in that minority, talk as if that was the situation for everybody in the hobby. I like to just go home and play with my friends. Well, over 90% of us didn't have that built in. So no, most people never had that. I had friends, I had people that would play the game with me. Regardless, I left the home, I left the group, I sometimes game with my friends. But mostly I went into the public realizing I'm going to meet a lot of people that need the ice broken. Nerds, sometimes I would meet that I find out they were around for years wanting to play, but never had the ice broken with people, never went to the right place, didn't know where the gaming group was. Do I go to the library? Is there classifieds? A lot of people didn't even know exactly how to look for a game. They just knew games like Dungeons and Dragons existed and they wanted to try it and didn't know what to do. But all we hear about is the very loud voices of the minority who had groups at home. They talk about their experiences like over 90% of us would relate when we don't. We don't relate with what they went through. Right? And we are the public gamers make up the vast majority of the hobby in the real true experience. But it's a silent majority, which is the case in a lot of fields in life. The majority usually is the silent part of whatever the hobby is, or what have you. So I had to do this testing because the gaming experience becomes important. I don't just throw this thing away because it's fun to hang out with friends. No, that thing becomes important because in reality that is fun, and I don't just have the fallback part where I know these people. Now again, over time, look, you can make friends with people you're gaming with. You can build all that up. But that's not guaranteed. And that's not your initial starting point with people. So the game becomes important. And you find out things about the game and what makes it good and what makes a good experience. And then it matters to you. You start caring because you want to have that experience more than you want to have the rest. You no longer want to half-ass because that's not how you experienced the hobby to begin with. You didn't come in with your built-in group of friends. Right? Your fun was the experience of actually playing the game. So that becomes what matters to you. What matters to you. And I hate having people that played at home, the minority that played at home, the less than 10% of people that played with a built-in group of friends, talk to the rest of us like we're going to understand what they're talking about. Hey, I just like to go home and play with my friends. Well, dude, that's not most of us, so sorry. That might be for you, but the rest of us, the vast majority of people, the silent majority, they do not relate with what you're saying. You know what I am looking for, really? I really am looking for an attitude of a person that can handle anything I'm throwing at them, and that are easygoing people. It doesn't mean they can't tell a joke, it doesn't mean they can't do this or that, but they can stay cool-headed. They can adjust and they can bend, because I need people that get along with other people, because that's how it really works. Sadly, I've had to bypass a lot of potential people because they were so antisocial, it was hard to get them to adjust to being social, and they would bring issues to a game they would join. Oh, very few people I let go after they joined. Very few times over my decades of gaming have I actually kicked people out. But given that I ran for so many people, thousands to be real with you, it's happened more than I would want it to happen. But not much when you compare it to how much gaming I've done and how many people I've gamed with. very few of them in reality ever got booted out of my game for the way they behaved. Because I had a good filter to get rid of people. And I was lucky. Over the years, I got to watch many people go through the horror story of letting people in that were lazy. Lazy players, some of the worst you can ever get. They won't get things done. They'll half-ass. They'll ruin the experience. Because you're not just hanging out with friends, so that thing becomes important to you. Then you get the people that, hey man, they get a little offended at your push of authority. Well, if they show me that they're offended, regardless if they bend or not in that moment, I need to verify that they are cool going forward. And I will drill. Like, is this an issue for you? And if they say yes, well then probably I'm not going to bother bringing them into the game at the start of it. That's going to be it. That's going to be the filter saying, okay, I think you're not made for this, right? Not made for my table anyway. That's how that works. And it does help. Because what matters? What we're actually doing. So I can appreciate the at-home people. But why do I take the game serious? It's not because it's like an overkill thing for me. But it is the fun. It is the thrill. It's where I have passion when it comes to these games. And I don't want to have anybody underplay that passion, especially a minority. A tiny, 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 tiny minority of people that had at-home groups, like they're with their friends and their family playing with them. I don't really take them serious when they try to diminish the passion I have for these games. And the reason it exists is because that's how I experienced it. That's how I enjoyed. That is my thrill. And sorry, your half-assed attempts at home with your friends and family will not be the reason I sit there and go, oh, I think you have a point. Why should I take it so serious? I guess all my passion and my thrill means nothing. I guess I'll just go half-ass the game like you do. Not care, barely try, not push myself, not enjoy it that way. Sorry, I don't want to half-ass. I don't want to be mediocre, right? It's just hanging out and playing checkers with my friends is not my gimmick in the hobby. I mean, I'm not against that type of social hangout with friends. I'm totally down for it. But it's not something I align with my experience at the games. Like any other game, from video games to whatever I pick up, there is a competitive effort in there. Like, look, it's a balance factor, but I do want to have fun, take it serious, go somewhere with it. Games are meant to be competitive in this way. If you get together and you don't care about none of that, you don't care at all about the outcome of the game, it all doesn't matter to you, well, you can get together and throw a ball at the wall with your friends and have just as much fun. Go ahead and do that. It's just not my cup of tea, baby. Public gaming, when you're meeting with strangers, means you're going to care about these games. And that means you should not listen to the at-home crew of people out there, the groups of people that will give you advice that will not match what you're going to go through. It does matter that you put a filter up. It does matter that you make sure players you're going to recruit aren't lazy. It does matter that players can handle authority at the get-go. And you need to test it to make sure that's a real thing. So test people on authority. Get the character done by this time. Test them through that to see if they're lazy, if they'll get the character done in time. And check out their attitude in the process of all this. If they have the right attitude, if they can handle the authority you put out there, and they get the character done on time, they show you that passion themselves. If they care, it doesn't matter how perfect they are, but they care, and they bring all that to the table, you got yourself a good player. Players don't need to... The best isn't the players who succeed. The best are the players that play the game right and are there for what the experience is. If you succeed or fail, well, that doesn't really matter, right? It's, did you try? Did you put your best foot forward? Was it fun? Are you taking the game serious? Is all these elements true about you? Well, if they are, well, then I hope you make some good decisions as a player. I really do with your character. But that's all secondary to the attitudes, to be able to handle this so we can have fun. Because from the good behavior You know, from the person who puts the effort forward and from the person who can handle authority, they make this process work and sing. And when it works and sing, there is a flow and a game and a great experience to be had where you can put your passion into what you're doing. You can trust the players you've recruited. You know your effort's not being wasted on people that it won't matter with. It will matter to them. They have shown you that up front. They are ready for it. So look for the right players. Filter out the bad ones. And don't take a red flag and just bring players in. Not if you're a public game master. Not if you're on the internet on Roll20 recruiting. Not if you're anywhere, even out there in the world. Red flags exist for a reason. Do not just trust that it says, well, it's a red flag, but I think they'll be okay. No, they won't be. That's why there's horror stories. And the horror stories are consistent. When you meet the players with the red flags, the majority of the time, you run into the bad situation. Do not gamble. Do not experiment. We have done that for 50 years. It's all been taken care of for you, kid, before you got here. And the results are this. Red flags means 99.9% of the time, those players are an issue and no good to your table. Campaign breaking, confidence killing, no good, no fun to game with. So take it all serious. And for you at-home people, I'm glad that you can get together and have some fun. But I got to tell you, for over 90% of us, from the 80s until now, you do not speak for us or the experience that we have in this hobby. So I'd say this to you at-home people. Keep your opinions to yourself. Or at the very least, don't extend them out as if they represent the majority. Man, they don't even represent 10% of the people in the hobby.